Hi everyone. So in this demo class, we would be getting an understanding of one of an AWS key feature. So before that, let me just introduce myself. Uh, my name is UV and I'm working as an enterprise architect majorly onto cloud and giving enterprise end-to-end solutioning on different cloud models, be it IaaS, PaaS or SaaS. I've been working on hybrid cloud implementations uh, with respect to the vendor neutral technologies, working for different vendor models like IBM, Azure, AWS, Rackspace, etc. Along with that, I have an experience of development primarily onto Microsoft Stack for web and window-based applications and hosting it on on-premise or on cloud. Now then, talking about our today's topic, which is Elastic Cloud Compute, EC2. So what is EC2? So since the inception of AWS, EC2 has been introduced in the year 2006 as a premium service to solve all the computing needs. During the year, there has been gradual development, upgradation onto the EC2 services, and new features have been adding. Now EC2 has become robust in many ways, and it is used to accommodate many of the use cases with respect to application hosting on cloud. So basically, what can we do with the EC2 instances? We can run application, a web or a local app on the instance. So basically, when I talk about instance is nothing but a computer. We can use that instance as a virtual desktop in order to do a remote login to any server or computer. We can host n number of third-party softwares which are used for different purposes. So basically, we are giving up computing power onto the cloud using an EC2 instance. Okay. Now, when we expand EC2, it stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. So now the later part, the cloud compute, is nothing but computing services operating in remote data servers around the world. So basically, we have hosted different applications on these instances which are operating from any part of the world on Amazon data centers. Adding Elastic to this makes a very magical, difference of these instances running on the computing resource. Just hold on for a sec. Yep. So I was talking about these instances. So we can, auto scale these instances. We can increase or decrease depending upon the demand or the spike, like, a Friday night sale or a year-end sale. We can accommodate using an EC2 instance using an auto scaling group. Talking about instances again, it is a basic unit of EC2. So we are doing nothing but creating an instance, putting an AMI, which is nothing but an Amazon marketplace image or a community image on that, and deploying our applications over it. So when I talk about image, it is nothing but an operating system, be it Linux or Windows. Let us see AWS console, how an instance looks like and how we can create an instance and make it ready for an application to be hosted on it. When you log into AWS console, AWS management URL, we get an option of resources, and below resources you have something called launch instance. You click on that launch instance, you'll get choose an Amazon machine image, which is nothing but an AMI. Now here I've taken a screenshot, so you can see only 3 images, but in reality there are n number of images. Here it shows 1 to 22 of 22 AMIs. So when we go below, we can see a window image, we can see a Red Hat image, Ubuntu image, and whatnot. You have images, you can create your AMIs and upload it You can use community images also. Okay. When I talk about community images, what you can see is like, you can have something like, Fortinet gate VM, or a firewall image, or maybe a load balancer image or something else. Okay. So now, when you choose an instance type, basically, so there are different rationales on the basis of which you will be choosing an instance type depending upon your use case. So it can be a vCPU, a memory, instance storage, and network performance coming into picture. So here, there is a concept of family, which you can see on the left hand side. Now, the selected family is general purpose. So there are different family options, like, if you are running a big database application or a workload, you need to choose a compute based family image. Okay. The Amazon machine images, as I've told, so basically what it comprises is an operating system plus software used on an EC2 instance. So an operating system can be a Linux or a Windows operating system. On top of that, you would be having some softwares like, Java, Python, CLI, etc., to create a runtime for your application to run. When you have already installed an image and running it over an instance, and what Amazon does is like, it updates the image software. It will not touch your instance. It won't do anything onto your instance. It will just only update the image software. So that's a good part of it. Quickly just going through the instance type comparison, uh, based on, vCPU, memory, and network. So these are the three criteria under which we evaluate an image. So we have a general purpose T2 large image where, you have a vCPU or a core of 2 and a memory of 8 gig. So the network uh, uh, would be like, low to moderate. A memory optimized R3 dot large image would be, again, a vCPU would be 2, but the memory is expanded. It is used for a moderate purpose. Compute optimize is where you have all your compute based use cases to be implemented. You can host it on this C4 large instance. It again has a vCPU of 2 and memory of 3.75 gig. Now, when you create an image, you have an option of doing creating an auto-scaling groups. Basically, it is a rules for automatically scaling EC2 images up and down. When you go back to the console in a wizard of creating an instance, the third option is configure instance, where we'll only focus on the first option, which is number of instances. Here it is 1. So when you click on that launch into autoscaling group, it will be part of an autoscaling group and can scale up and down based on the spike. Okay. There are other options which we might go on to in different classes, like, purchasing options. If you select, you get request spot instances. If some or the other, customer uh, which would not be using these instances, you can bid for these spot instances, which would come cheaper. You can use it for a couple of hours and then maybe release it. Okay. Keeping in mind, very important thing, you use EC2 for scaling AMIs. On the contrary, you use Elastic Beanstalk for scaling applications. This is a very important difference which we need to keep in mind while designing our workloads or applications on Amazon Web Services. Now, the next step is add storage. So obviously, when you have an instance, you need to attach volume, which is nothing but elastic block storage onto your instance. So again, it comes with a price. We will discuss about the price in the next slides. You can add a number of volumes into it. The volume which is added right now by default is a root volume, which the size of which is 8 gig, and it is a general purpose SSD. Okay, the IOPS would be 24 bar 3000, and this is non-encrypted. Now, we would use EBS, the Elastic Block Storage, for EC2 file systems, but there is another service which is Simple Storage S3, which is used for basically for file storage. So these are the two different services which we would be discussing in future classes. Now, the next and a very important step is selection of a security measures or a security group. So IP-based communication rules for a single or a group of service instances. When you create your instance, you need to set up some ground rules like, on the firewall, like you don't allow any connection from the internet, or you allow connections, incoming connections from specific IP range, or from a specific port. Yeah. So when you see option 6, which is configure security groups, you see a SSH connection with the protocol TCP, which is only allowed on port 22. Okay. We can add a number of rules at a later stage. If you want to delete any rule, we can go and delete that. So that's not a problem. Typical security group scenarios is like control who can SSH into EC2. So you don't want everybody to use SSH and come into your EC2 instance. You can set a security group for that. Allow access between EC2 instances. How EC2 instances would communicate, you can set a ground rule. Allow access to the database. So if database access has to be given onto a specific port, like 1433, you can set up a rule for that. Accept HTTP request. You can set up a rule to accept HTTP request on port 80, 80 or 80. The last step is to review instance and launch it. One important thing, when you click on launch, basically it will ask for a key which would be used to create an SSH connection to your instance. You can use a pre-existing key on create or create a key which would be used to do an SSH to your instance. Now, a very important thing most of the consultants or architects would think about when they are designing a solution across clouds, you need to think about pricing, right? So we have few slides on that. So now EC2 instances are charged by hour. So when I say by hour, it depends upon a couple of factors. They change based on the instance type, what you select. Okay, maybe a small, medium, large, and the AMI type. So for example, Windows AMI images would be a bit expensive as compared to the Linux images. Yeah, so if you see the EC2 pricing example, what I have projected here, the instance type, what we have selected is R3.large. The AMI on top of that instance, which is running is Amazon Linux, and the rate per hour is 16.6 cents, which is less than $1. This is rate per hour. So when you see the daily rate, which is the rate for the whole day, it would be below $4. Right? So this varies depending upon the AMI or the instance type what we select. This in another example, we have T2 Micro, which is a more basic image where you have like maybe one core CPU and 1 or 2 gig memory RAM. There you'll put an Amazon Linux AMI, and the rate is drastically reduced. So it is 0.13 USD. So the daily rate would be below $1. Amazing, isn't it? So the EC2 instance pricing type is, there are 3 different types of instances. The on-demand instances, reserved instances, and the spot instances. Okay, so the on-demand instances, again, depending upon our use case, they are cheap. Reserved instances, which are reserved to accommodate anything, they are cheaper. And the spot instances, basically, which are not used or by any other customer which you would be using, they are the cheapest. Current EC2 free offering, as per the site, there are 750 hours of T2 Micro running on Linux, which are available as a part of free tier. 750 hours of T2 Micro running Windows Server. 750 hours of Elastic Load Balancing plus 15 gig of processing. 30 gig of Elastic Block Storage for an instance is also available each month for a year. So these are the offerings on Amazon free tier. Along with that, there are some regional pricing which we need to consider while solutioning a use case. Like Elastic Block Storage, it comes with 0.10 USD per gig per month. Autoscaling Groups, they are free per month, but you end up paying for the instances and the EBS. Load balancer is 0.025 USD per hour. Yep, so that's about EC2 instances. In our future videos, hopefully we would be covering other services of AWS. Thank you so much.